I look like the Costco dad if he's going through chemo. Well, what is up, you wonderful Joy Boys? I started about 5 minutes early here. I'm gonna let you guys file in so I can get some news out of the way. But in short, what's going on right now? It's been 1 week since My Hero Academia ended. And now we've had a whole week to actually read it and to kind of digest it, to feel it out. And I want to know how we're all feeling about it 1 week later. Me personally, I can't believe it, folks. I love it even more now. I love it even more. But before we dig into that, I do got some news. Like I said, I started early because I wanted to get the laundry all hung up here. This is gonna be more of a let's talk about what I haven't already talked about. Let's also dig into the legitimate criticisms, because there are legitimate criticisms beyond the obvious not legitimate ones that we were not going to discuss, because it's there to be plainly read. Like, the manga's out officially on Manga Plus. Go there, read it. A lot of problems people have is simply it's there. They either haven't read it or they do not want to read what is plainly there and obvious, and that's okay. It's yours to handle however you want. It breaks my heart to see that some people choose the option to make themselves miserable for no reason. Also, I forgot, I'm not by myself. I'm joined by Pippin in the background. He's napping. This is nap time. But yeah. So I'm not going to address what is already obvious, what I've already discussed in our analysis on Joycast, which you can see in the link below. I'm not going to talk about what I talked about last week's stream, which is available in the link below. And while you're here looking in that link box, you should check out our community redraw of the first chapter of My Hero Academia. It was a very fun collaborative project with fans, and we dubbed it. And that is also, of course, available in the description below. Go watch that after this. It was really fun. I'm very happy with the well reception. As always, I'm very appreciative of the people who got involved with it. And I appreciate the people who came to watch it. And we're also very happy with it and gave their praise to the artists, as they wholly deserve. Last bit of news. Dark Deku Abridged is still on Patreon, and it's going to be there, unfortunately, much longer than we wished. There's a new wrinkle in YouTube's copyright system where now they will warn us a week ahead of time that we will be receiving a copyright strike for this, which means it's struck and it's taken down and cannot be visible. It will still be available on Patreon in some shape or form, but this heavily delays our intent to how soon we want to get it on YouTube. Because despite the warning that it's going to get copyright struck, we're not allowed to counter, which is the next step for us, until it is actually struck. So we sit there for a week with a knife dangling over our heads for a week. So if I feel more erratic than usual, it's because I have that stress, because I'm a pretty anxious person by nature. So now I've got that going on, plus a lot of coffee in my system. Bad combination, so I apologize if I'm a little off-kilter than usual. But yes. Yeah, Patreon's the only way you can see Dark Deku for a while. So if you were kind of hesitant to support us on Patreon and get early access to that, because you're like, oh, they've been pushing things pretty fast through copyright these days. This one's going to take a while, folks. And nothing is ever guaranteed. Because although we've fought many counter-strikes before in the past, nothing is still ever guaranteed. This is the most difficult part of the process. We believe it can get done, but nothing is ever guaranteed. But with that said, let's jump into it. How are we feeling a week later? I actually want to talk about, to start, I want to talk about some comments we received, good and bad, that'll help us segue into discussing what we haven't before. And I want to start with this blatant criticism of the fact that people are still complaining that things did not work out for Deku. He's a loser. This sucks. It's so unfortunate because, again, if you just read it, you know that's not how it happened. It's there in plain text that his friends dedicated their fucking careers to buying him that suit. And people are saying that suit's not enough. That's power scaling. You see it in the final shot. He's sitting there as equals with his buddies. That I guarantee Deku's probably a top fiver with that suit on still. Power-wise, and the way that Hero Society is now situated, again. That's what you need subtext for, baby. But I want to talk about this unfortunate thing, why this happens. And again, you're okay. It is absolutely perfectly acceptable to be disappointed because you didn't get what you want. There's a lot that I didn't get out of this series at the end, and I'm still happy with it. But there's some things I'm disappointed about, and that's okay. But don't give Horikoshi shit for it. I got one of those comments I got where they said, oh, Subtext is just a cop-out. Is it a cop-out? Or is it a very mature device when the odds are so unfairly against you, when there are people who come in to read the story, but the goal for them reading is, you're there to make me happy. If you don't do what makes me, specifically one person out of 10 billion on this planet, if I'm not happy, your story's shit. What kind of odds are that, man? What's Horikoshi supposed to do about that? And the fact that he took this very mature route and didn't try to make any specific faction happy, he said, I'm gonna give you the evidence to you to piece out the ending that makes you happiest. That's Subtext as a device. It's there to be engaged with. And he did a great job with that. He would never, if he stuck with Ochako, like a hard confirmation, they're fucking holding hands, they're kissing, whatever, there would still be a ton of unhappy people. Alright? He's not gonna win. No matter what he does, he's gonna win. So he did the best thing possible. I like this. However, there is a very valid criticism that I saw in our own comments, and I do like this, where someone said, I don't like the lack of conviction here. They said, I wish he would have stuck to something. The fact that he was both a teacher and a hero at the end, in fact, he found fulfillment as a teacher, like they read it and they agreed that, yeah, he wasn't abandoned, he got to be a teacher, but the fact that he was totally fine being a teacher, and then he still left to become a hero at the end. And people said he should legitimately choose a side, and they liked what a criticism that I had before this moment happened, before the end, when Deku was fighting with Shigaraki, where I said that I would be most happy with a rejection of Hero Society. That Deku would know this is wrong, in order to determine to the audience that he knew this was wrong, that he would reject that he wouldn't continue to participate at that level. And some of the comments said, this is fine, but they personally don't like the lack of conviction on Horikoshi's part. We said, he's having his cake and eat it too, and I don't think if this is supposed to be a mature ending, that doesn't feel mature, that feels childish. And I directly brought that up in our Discord, where I said, yeah, this ending is childish. This is childish optimism. This is idealism. And that's okay. But there are people who are not okay with that, but they're just like, I don't care what side he chose, he should have picked a side and stuck with it. And I'm like, that's fair. I think that right there, legitimate criticism. And which they marked too, they said, still like the series, but I think that is a bad ending, quality-wise. And I think that's a legitimate gripe to have a bad ending where the fact that there was a lack of conviction, the fact that he was trying to make everyone happy, and you can say, hey, no conviction, you should have at least took something and took the blows, take the sock on the cheek and go, hey, I think that is a fair feeling. But which I would add, and I would argue that, again, as I said in the previous stream, because people always point to the shipping. It's always the prime thing. There's a lot of legitimate criticisms to have, like that comment. But most all come down to, I didn't get what I want, and I wanted Deku and Ochako together. And this is where a lot of other people cite for lack of conviction, where I go, again, just because you didn't get what you wanted, doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean there's a lack of conviction. This is where Horikoshi did a very convicted thing, and we went, I know I am not going to make any... There's always going to be somebody upset. And I cannot do this. So I'm going to offer little morsels for you to dig into if you wish to engage, and you got to engage with it. But there's people who just do not want to engage. And the episode before, episode 97, I believe, of Joycast, Val and I had this very fun discussion where we remarked that manga is a very nuanced medium where there is a lot of subtext, because this is where you have to work with less. You're not doing animation. You have to communicate more with less frames, with less pages and panels. Animation is just a lot more pages and panels being showed in sequence. you've got to fill in the spaces in between with a lot of nuance and subtext. And it's very funny that in the West, the Western readers generally, on a popular level, don't like to engage with that nuance. But they will with animation. They like to go frame by frame with it with animation. But with manga, they stop for some reason. It's a very funny thing. We don't quite understand it, but we remarked upon it in episode 97. Go listen to that if you haven't yet. It's very funny. So they don't want that subtext. And it's so sad because there's this beautiful little page. There's two panels in that montage where we see Deku and Ochako hanging out with their scarves, and they're just standing by each other. It's a quiet moment. There's no dialogue, and they're looking up at the snowflakes. And I said, to me, someone who's more of a Bakugo Deku shipper, I'm like, I think Deku and Ochako dated there. I look at that panel and go, I use the power of subtext, and I go, those two tried. Are they still dating now? I don't know. I personally don't feel it, but someone could definitely argue that they are. But I go, they definitely tried. They had a great time. They had a great, lovely little quiet time together. They had these moments. And that's the power of subtext. And that's why I'm happy, and those who don't want to engage with that device are miserable. They choose misery, and it's so sad. But let's talk more about that choice of misery. Why are they miserable? And I want to be sympathetic. I'm not trying to shame anyone here. I want to be very understanding and sympathetic of why people are so dismayed and angry about they didn't get what they want. But specifically, Deku did not. I see a lot of complaints that Deku did not get rewarded. There was a lack of reward. There was a lack of affirmations. Affirmation's a very key word. And let's bring this back. Because, again, read the goddamn manga. That statue in the background with Class 1A, Deku's front and center of that statue. They know who he is. Dai literally calls him by name. They know. People are like, they never remembered him. He literally goes face to face. But again, that was last week's stream. Read it. These things happened. But let's talk about affirmation. And specifically the word, or the genre, or the device, or whatever you call it, power fantasy. We are no strangers on this channel to using power fantasy as a derogatory term. I am guilty. I'm the most guiltiest guy of laughing in the face of power fantasy. But let's be the advocate of power fantasy right now. What is the point of power fantasy, especially in the West? And I keep bringing up the West because I don't live in Japan. I'm not Japanese. But I do have contacts who live in Japan and got that boots on the ground reaction. And Japan loves the ending of My Hero Academia. As they should. A criticism of mine would be that there was not enough changes in Hero Society. There was a love for the status quo in Japanese culture. And this ending, that's another legitimate criticism. People are like, not enough change. We got to see some changes, but there are people who desired for more change. And that definitely wasn't available. That's a legitimate criticism. And that's one I have. But Japan engaged with that subtext. They very much did. And they liked the idea that Deku lived a humble life, but also had his friends stick up for him. Again, it's that Japan is a collectivist society. They're always very considerate of one another, whereas in America, we are very individualistic. We think we put ourselves first. And that's a whole other thing. That's a sociology thing. That's a psychological thing. That's not what this podcast is about. I'm just calling it like it is. America, we are individualistic. So we look at the power fantasy. Deku is an affirmation. He is us. He is the audience stand-in. Why is power fantasy so important? And why do people get so offended when Deku is not rewarded in the way that they wish that he was? They're not satisfied. There are rewards here, but even if you read it and you still can't glean that, you're not satisfied. Why is it not satisfying? Why do you need more? Why do you get offended when... That was another comic book I brought up. This image right here, Deku working fast food. This is a joke. Even the people who made this image admitted that this is JK. We're having fun with the material. We know this is not what happened to Deku. But people who seek that information, they see this. Deku is their stand-in. He represents a lot of their hopes and desires. And when they see jokes like this made, they can only glean this as that they themselves are being made fun of. They take it very personally. And we're not here to make fun of that. Why do they take it so personally? Because life is so tough, you guys. Life is tough. Okay? The economy's fucking shit. We have a loneliness epidemic right now. The way our infrastructure is built, again, I'm not here to talk about those things, but I can say with full certainty that for many reasons, life is tough. It's very tough for people especially who would very much see themselves in a guy like Deku at the beginning of this series. Deku is this plain, Chaco's own words, this guy is plain, he blends in the background. A lot of people complain that Deku is not acknowledged enough and seen at the end of the series, but that plays very truly to his appearance, even though he's covered in scars now, and that's a characteristic trope, but he's always been a guy who blends in with the crowd. And that rings true even in his adulthood. I always like that little detail that Horikoshi stayed true to. But Mochako, this is a plain guy. This is a guy that there isn't, and we make fun of this in Dark Deku Abridged, if you haven't seen it yet, where he doesn't have much going on at face value level. That makes him very easy to be identified with. He could be anybody. He could be you, me, anyone. But he starts off specifically as anyone who has been bullied, who has been placed in a very unfair position in society. The odds are stacked against him, and there's a lot of reasons why life can be stacked against you. It can be the economy, it can be any way you were born, it can be your health. It don't matter. And it's very easy to see why a lot of people identify and very tightly grip onto Deku. And they deserve to, man. This guy is incredible. And to watch him rise and develop. And people are like, what was the point of this? Look at that guy now compared to what he was in the beginning of the series. Dude is depressed. Dude is straight up depressed. He is an outsider in this society that he loves. He's got nothing going on. He's distinct. He blends in a bad way. I say he blends in a good way now because now no one bugs him about killing Shigaraki, which we'll get valid criticisms later. And he has grown so much. And you see that growth, but for people, when it's all said and done, it's still not enough. I got Freddie Hines in the chat. I'm sorry, I just saw the chat now. Melancholy endings. Yeah, I brought this up last week. But the melancholy isn't that Deku got fucked over, because he didn't. They all stuck up for him at the end. Collectivism, maybe. But there is that nostalgia. I talked about the pain of the past. The pain of, oh man, those were the good old days. But that series, the final page, totally represents that Deku's best days are still far ahead of him. There's better and better things on the horizon. He looks back at the past at Shigaraki, and then the last frame, he looks ahead, and he's got his buddies right next to him. They're like, we're going to the future, baby. And to people who say that's not enough, when will anything be enough? I think some people, it'll never be enough until, again, they get specifically what they want. And it being communicated very clearly what they want. If it's not clear enough, because again, this is a medium that people don't like to engage with as much nuance as it deserves to be. And it's a power fantasy, and understandably, they want things to work out crazily for Deku. They want everything. They want him to have bags of money and Chaco, his hand around Ochako's shoulder. What's up, Toots? If that's what you wanted, that's okay, man. That's okay, but realistically, was that what you want? There's more things going on. The goal of Horikoshi's goal of My Hero Academia was not to give you what you wanted. Power fantasy and wish fulfillment are still very important and powerful things that make people enjoy series. But stop saying that was the intent of the series when it clearly was not. There were many themes to approach on. I brought this up very briefly in the stream and with Val on the podcast. Because Val had a complaint where he was a little bit upset. A character that Japan loves, because again, that nuance. But the West really does not like Endeavor. And we can dissect Endeavor all day. But Val was not happy that Endeavor did not get acknowledged either for doing the right thing at the end, where he took responsibility for Dabi and he sat there and quit Hero Society and donated all his money. Everything he ever earned as a hero, he went, giving it away to the rebuild efforts. This is my kid burnt that shit down. I fucking pay for it. And Val wanted more acknowledgement of that. He says, I want Endeavor, a character that a lot of us, the older audience, like to engage with. We're older. We may not see ourselves so much in Deku, but we definitely see our regrets and mistakes and our need to do better in Endeavor. And there are people like Val who get very upset, who are like, I wish he got a notch. I wish he got rewarded for doing the right thing. Which I go, here is another theme in My Hero Academia that's never outright said. Again, nuance, subtext. There are many examples and instances of My Hero Academia where people do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because they're supposed to get something for it in return. Gentle, a character that we all universally love, especially here at JoyRide. That guy, yeah, he gets to have his girl and he gets to have his company at the end. We get a brief montage of that. But this is a guy who tried to do the right thing, fucking flopped real hard, and got punished for it. Turned to a life of crime, went to jail and accepted that, and had no business ever doing the right thing again. No one would have blamed the guy. How bad he got fucked. And when the opportunity was presented, he went, I know for a fact I'm not gonna get rewarded for this, but I'm gonna do the right thing anyways. That is some powerful shit. That is just one of many examples of that guy knew, and that was demonstrated to us, the audience. We watched this man get fucked over. Even when he was a villain, he was a gentleman thief. He was doing freaking eco-terrorism and shit because the freaking pudding company that he stole from, he wanted to bring attention to the fact that they were not disposing their plastics appropriately. There was always a purpose to what he did, and he knew he was going to jail for that. He knew there was no reward for doing this. This is a character. There are examples, hard examples of doing the right thing, even if you get fucked over. And Deku didn't even get fucked over at the end. But people can interpret that he did. And if you interpret that he got fucked over at the end, there are still so many themes that this is the point of My Hero Academia, that you don't do heroic things just to get a reward. There is other villains like Stain who are dedicated to these themes, where he is actively fucking killing people who are taking a paycheck for hero work. Extremism available in this theme. And again, Deku still got rewarded at the end. He got the super cool Iron Man 2 suit that his friends who did not abandon him all worked together. Let's go to that criticism. Again, so this is hilarious. I'm being called in a lot of comments a glazer, which I'm not offended. That's fucking hilarious. That tells me, oh, you're new here. Because anyone who's a longtime fan here at JoyRide knows that I am the exact opposite. I never saw, right now, sitting here right now, I never saw a future in the 10 years that this series was in publication. I've always loved it. Even when I criticized it, I loved it. I said, I criticize it because I love it. I never saw myself standing here on a platform defending, being called a glazer. Defending My Hero Academia from its own fans. Crazy. Hilarious irony. So funny. But to get back onto that, what was the point here it was the reward. Oh, someone called Deku a Nepo baby. I have famously called Deku a Nepo baby. But I felt that, again, we talk about the development of Deku. Those opening chapters. And I made this joke in My Hero Academia Bridge as well, where All Might says, congratulations on knowing the right people. Deku absolutely begins this series as a Nepo baby. And a lot of this series, and he succeeds in Deku proving that he is not a Nepo baby. In my opinion, Nepo babies are rewarded for their connections, and then they pull the ladder up. They pull the ladder out from behind them and go, I got what I wanted, fuck you. To me, that's the sin of the Nepo. I don't think there's anything wrong that you just happen to be born, again, because there's nothing wrong with your circumstances when society's against you. You shouldn't be unfairly treated because you were born where things work out. You should be doing, if you acknowledge that privilege and you're doing your best to give other people more, you're using your platform to give other people opportunities. Who does that fucking sound like? That's fucking Deku. He literally gave One for All away to Shigaraki and said, we fought in the fucking Mind Palace. I saw your origin. I saw that you did not have someone out there to believe in you who stifled your dreams. Shigaraki, I was given this treasure and now I'm going to save you with it. I'm going to give this up to you. That is not somebody who pulls the ladder from behind them. That's not a Nepo baby anymore. Dude fucking developed. He is not a Nepo baby. So when he gets that fucking suitcase at the end, when people say he wasn't rewarded for his efforts, that's the fucking reward for that. That's the reward for that, baby. And it's not nepotism. It's collectivism. Because the reason he gets that suitcase is because that sacrificial behavior, that I've got your back, when he stood up for Ojiro during the sports festival arc, all the clashes he had with Bakugo, or all those times Deku could have turned the jets on Bakugo and said, fuck you, you bullied me, I'm going to turn this against you, your ass is canceled. Never gave up. Always acknowledged him as his best friend and said, I know what you're best capable of. I'm not going to, now that I'm All Might's favorite, I'm not going to mock you for that. The fact that he treats Ochako with respect and not a fucking trophy. And all the interactions he has with his villains, we could take this list every day. All these relations, all these people who come together and said, that Deku guy was fucking awesome. When I was in high school, I went to school with this kid named Deku, and he watched everyone's fucking back. And I learned that this kid was a fucking Nepo baby who got brought in because he knew what All Might. And this kid had no fucking attitude. He wasn't fucking cocky. He was always humble. He always sacrificed. Hell yeah, I'm going to give a piece of my check to that guy. That's not nepotism. That's legitimate friendship. That's a guy who made the best of his connections and said, he started off being the exact opposite of Nepo baby. Life fucked him over, then he got it. He got the nepotism that a lot of people get, and he went, I gotta share this shit. I gotta do my best to make sure everyone feels included and everyone does their fucking best. That motherfucker tried to save Shigaraki. Again, legitimate criticisms we're getting to. Unfucking salvageable from the narrative. He's one of the worst things about the story. We'll get legitimate criticisms. Shigaraki fucking sucks at the end of the day. And Deku still gave up everything for this guy. And you don't think he deserves the Iron Man suit at the end? He doesn't deserve everyone dedicating their paychecks to that? In the same breath that you say they abandoned him? Pick a fucking lane. Pick a lane. Folks, pick a lane. Zed does games. Imagine having the same friends you have in high school. Kind of sad. Some people marry their high school sweethearts. Some people have very deep friendships. I'll say my high school friendships didn't last. Well, actually, I actually shouldn't say that. My friendships with fellow high school students never lasted. But one of my coaches, actually several of my coaches in sports in high school, are still my friends to this very day. They're my adult friends. They were my adult friends when I was a kid. They're just my older adult friends now. So, actually, my friends I had in high school, I still have. You can do that. I mean, look at Deku. He's still hanging out with Aizawa. They're definitely colleagues now. You know they're going to those Japanese drinking meetings where they have to freaking drink and they're forced to drink and vent about their bosses, about Nezu, about how he defunded the art program for the sports festival. You can have your friends after high school, but at the same time, realistically, you don't have to. When people were like, they abandoned him because they weren't with him 24/7 for 8 years. People naturally drift apart. Like Zed just said, imagine having the same friends at high school. It's a fucking feat. It's generally, I don't think it's sad if you have the same friends in high school. I think it's a fucking feat. It's a remarkable thing if you do. High school friendships, hell, college friendships are hard to maintain. Friendships in general are hard to maintain through the years. They really are. My Hero Academia is very realistic about this. And also idealistic about this, where he went naturally, hey, it's hard to get your schedules to match up, especially when all your friends, and they find, and he clarifies the excuse of why his friends don't have much time, because they're working overtime. Todoroki is working day and night. You see the billboards with the advertisements. These guys are doing extra advertising work to make sure they've got extra money so they can pay their rent and they get their buddy Deku back on the beat. Because they know what he really loves to do at the end of the day. Did not abandon him, folks. And Deku's not a Nepo baby. And I wish I was a Glazer. People would like me more if I was truly a Glazer, but I'm just not. I wish. I genuinely wish. Maybe I'm a Glazer in this moment. Maybe that's why you guys are engaging me so positively now. Probably true now. But I'm not bossing up what isn't already there. It's just not a quality. It's not a quality issue. But let's talk about some legitimate quality problems. At the end of the day, folks, Shigaraki sucks. He's one of the worst, and he's one of the worst things about My Hero Academia now, because he had so much potential. But I don't blame Horikoshi for it. He's always been, I said it and I'll say it till my face is blue, although it's just getting redder. He's always been at war with his editors. I talked about Japan, although they very much like this ending, they're always very much a collectivist, but also status quo society. They don't want much to change. They don't want much collectively to be challenged, because that's uncomfortable. Shigaraki, at his best, brings up many very uncomfortable ideas about a collectivist society. I made a tweet about this, about why I was satisfied with My Hero Academia, because it begins and it ends on a prompt. It brings the modern mythology of an individualist society like America, superheroes, into Japan. And it weighs the merits and the problems of both. What's good and bad about a collectivist society? What's good and bad about individualism? Let's merge them together and find the most positive outcome. And that isn't fully answered. They have answers. We see Shoji going to small towns and really engaging with people. We know Ochako start more Quirk education programs to avoid the shit that happened to Toga and the sewn mouth shut kid. So we won't repeat things like that and repeat things like Shigaraki. But Shigaraki, we don't have those endings until we have a guy like Shigaraki who brings up a very uncomfortable thing about a collective society, and that is when you have a quality that isn't collectively accepted. We talked about this on the podcast about a very specific, there was an incident with a manga that's very new, but is very likely to get axed, called Psych House on the Shonen Jump app. On the main magazine. That's not going to last. Because there was a controversy. Americans think this is cute. Myself, I think Psych House is very cute. It's kind of like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's like My Hero Academia meets Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's people with weird abilities that aren't very easily accepted, but they come to this little house, this little tenant place, where they can be a little bit more accepted and just live amongst each other and take care of each other. It's very communal. I love community solutions. And I think My Hero Academia ends on a lot of communal solutions. Ochako specifically, Shoji specifically. I love their endings. But there was a controversy with this one, because in the very first chapter of Psych House, this chick who has a power to, if she touches something, she has a timer. And after a certain time, whatever she touched can reappear within a certain feet of herself. And this girl, her mother's in the hospital. She can't afford her bills. She's homeless and starving. Hasn't eaten, in her own words, has not eaten in 2 days. She goes to a convenience store. She looks at a rice ball and she's like, man, I wish I could have this. She doesn't even talk about this. She's like, shit, man, I wish I could afford this. Puts it back. She's sitting there in middle school and she's like, I can't do this. I'm going to starve. And she makes that rice ball appear in her hands. And she takes it. And another kid with powers notices that and goes, yo, that's not cool. but I understand your situation, and that's why he introduces her to the psych house, and she gets a place there where she can afford to live because it's free, and gets free meals and doesn't have to steal anymore. That's a communal solution. And on top of that, he takes her to the convenience store, makes her apologize, and she does, and this convenience store owner goes, hey, I forgive you. That's rough. Because she explains her circumstances and goes, that's rough. If you're going through something like that, please tell an adult about that. Please tell me. And he gives her all of his expires. He goes, this stuff's been expired for a day. And he gives it to her. A big bag of rice balls. Before we even get the psych house solution. He goes, take these. Don't steal from me, but take these rice balls I can't sell. I'd rather you do that than steal from me. I gotta throw these out anyways. I adore that fucking pilot. It brings a tear. I love communal solutions in communal societies to these collective fucking problems, okay? But guess how Japan perceived that? They were threatening the author. They said, how dare someone steal from a store? In Japan, in culture, we call this common sense laws. There's a reason why in Japan, there are no trash cans in public. And at the same metric, there's no litter. Japan is very clean. Japan is generally very safe, especially in the cities. Because it's this collective society, it's this common sense laws. There is a huge suppression and shame culture in Japan. And this gets to the root of Shigaraki's problems. Where it's like, I have this power that if I touch something, it gets fucking destroyed. And people look at that, and people look at this kid, he's dirty, he's filthy, he's craggly. You see that old woman who gets redeemed at the end, who does the right thing, and who gets that sew mouth shut kid. But we see that part where she looks at the kid, and he goes, lots of ways other people don't look at him. Shigaraki brings up a very uncomfortable criticism about Japan. And that's, if you don't fit in this parameter of common sense, and you're doing, and that goes to the greater League of Villains. You get guys like Spinner, who are mutants and look different, and Toga, who is perceived as a deviant because she loves a certain way, in a violent way that's definitely not good, but they choose to fucking torture her through suppression programs. That is a very real thing. It's a very real thing in America. I hope you guys know this, that there is suppression therapy, conversion therapy, that's a real thing in the States, that Horikoshi addresses with Toga as a character. When you don't fit in, and you're not going to subscribe, you're not going to attempt to fit in the way we want you to, we will force of will it. But that doesn't work. That only creates worse people, like the League of Villains. And this is why I accept their failures, because they're beyond saving. And the approach is that, and the Class 1A learns from them, and they do the best they can to not repeat those mistakes. And that's why I love this ending. But again, uncomfortable thoughts. You even get Dabi. Dabi is the stereotypical no A pluses, you're dead to me trope. That it's a very racist trope. But Horikoshi acknowledges it and says, yeah, something like this does happen. And it's something that Japan as a culture does not want to acknowledge. And mind you, when I'm criticizing Japan here, we all have problems. In America, we've got fucking problems too. It's very evidence in what we're experiencing right now with this upcoming election, okay? But that's a whole nother thing. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm just here to talk about how things connect to My Hero Academia. And so the League of Villains bring up these very uncomfy ideas. And we learn from characters like Lady Nagant and Hawks that we like to silence these things. When we see something that doesn't work in here and doesn't fit in Hero Society, we silence it. We suppress it. But there comes a time when there is a limit, and the suppression, and you're suppressing and you're pressing it down, and it just fucking explodes. That's the League of Villains. And that's what Horikoshi's saying right now to the Japanese culture, going, that I appreciate the lack of litter on the streets, and I like that we have common sense laws, but we need to be less shameful, we need to be less suppressive, and we need to be more understanding, we need to be more educational. And I look at a series like the Psych House, and I brought that up because I look at this new gen, and they've all read My Hero Academia, and they understand the themings. And we are now in a post My Hero Academia society who's looking at Horikoshi's themes and going, who are telling stories that bring up these themes and correct them very early. It's very, very heartening to see. But now let's get back to why Shigaraki does not work. Because he makes Japan so uncomfortable. Because you don't want to acknowledge this mistake. Sometimes it just feels easier to put a towel over it, and that's okay. And Horikoshi calls that shit out again. The Earth Society goes, you can't put a towel over the shit. But at the same time, and again, it's not even wholly, it's really not Shigaraki's fault, and that's the problem. Nothing is really Shigaraki's true fault at the end. Because Shigaraki at the very end goes, I was destroyer to the very end. Shigi, no you want. Because again, your themes here, with Shigaraki specifically, made your editors very uncomfortable. And they fought, you can tell they fought him and said, you need a devil figure. It can't be society's fault that Shigaraki acts like this. Shigaraki cannot perceive that society failed him and go, it's got to be destroyed. My solution is destroy society. We can't embolden us. We need the positive solution. And I'm happy that Horikoshi used the ending to communicate this best. But at the expense of Shigaraki's autonomy. It's his autonomy that's key to why he has been failed as a character, because he needs a puppet master. Shigaraki cannot, on his own volition, come to the conclusion that everything must be destroyed and do what he does with the series. There's got to be a puppet master. The devil ultimately, it wasn't society's fault. The devil made me do it. And that's where we have, obviously, All for One. Where this man, and what makes this worse is that he clearly, definitively puppeteered Shigaraki's entire life, down to his birth. He had this all planned and staked out. And it is such a betrayal of Shigaraki's themes and his autonomy to make things, to have a point. And it's even worse when we made this huge joke about All for One. Even Horikoshi himself makes this joke, and several characters shame and beat the shit out of All for One. All for One's whole undoing is his confidence that he controls everything, when he clearly does not. But for Shigaraki, he apparently did. But we talk about Dabi's past, where Dabi completely upended All for One's plans. We talk about everyone else where All for One's like, I planned everything. I control everything. I control the outcomes. Even that final rush, everyone says, the origin is bullshit, All for One. You did not control people's past. You can manipulate the strings, but it's how they react to it. But Shiggy is so betrayed by that. The fact that he explodes when he's told the truth that All for One controlled everything. And then All for One, who's supposed to be dead 3 times over at this point, comes back again in Shigaraki's body, so we have an excuse to get everyone to show up in the portals and fight him. That's horrible. That's a fucking problem. It really undermines some incredible themes that Horikoshi still fixes, but at the end of the day, it does come at the expense of a really cool, very deep character like Shigaraki, who now at the end of the road has no autonomy. And bringing Tenko back would not have fixed this, because that's a legitimate problem that I've seen, a legitimate disappointment that I've seen, that people are like, where's Tenko? They tease Tenko. With that kid with his mouth sewn shut, that was a classic Horikoshi fake out. And I like this because it proves that society as a whole is not repeating the same mistakes as the past. That's good. Tenko would not have fixed this problem. Tenko would have only further removed autonomy for Shigaraki and said, Shigaraki was just a thing. He was just a puppet. That Tenko did not at least Tenko is the proof. The fact that Tenko, an innocent child, grew up to go in Shigaraki and died and stayed permanently dead is the last remaining conviction that we have in regards to Shigaraki, and said, this kid got fucked over by suppression and collectivism. The one quality where this doesn't work, the criticism that this didn't work. It's all he has left. Tenko staying dead is all we have that remains to keep this working, but it's still fucking bad. It's still bad no matter what. That was a no-win situation, and I don't blame Horikoshi. I blame I think Horikoshi did not want All for One to be that much of a puppet master in Shigaraki's life, but the editors had to insist that they were making the general populace uncomfortable. Please don't rock the boat too much, Hori-sensei. Let there be a devil made me do its figure. And why is that? Why do shonen editors have to act like this? Because again, I made this joke where people are like, oh god, Deku became a wage cock just like Ichigo and Gohan and da 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 da. And I'm like, so you know what Shonen Jump has been since the 1980s? I go back to the previous stream. I talked about the theming about salarymen, about how this was a workman's attitude. Shonen Jump, someone brought up a great point in another discussion on Twitter about vertical fan base building, vertical influence. Shonen Jump is very formulaic. Don't have to tell you that. You know the Shonen formula to a T. Shonen Jump is formulaic because it's building upward. It's not trying to be wide-reaching. It is starting to now through Jump Plus, by the way. But the main magazine itself, this is the reason why everything's exorcism right now. And why, when they latch onto a very popular idea, they will beat that horse to death because it's vertical. They're not going to go wide-reaching and try to get a new idea. They're going to keep doing what works. And they're going to keep appealing to the guys who keep returning to them. Say, hey, you like exorcism. You like battle. You like fights. You don't like the status quo to be challenged too hard. We're going to keep doing that. Because that's what our sales figures tell us. Because at the end of the day, we got to keep this magazine going. Got to keep the money going, okay? I don't know where that money's going. I don't deign to figure out. Because I feel like I'm going to be wholly disappointed when I find out that it's a few suits at the end of the day. And Horikoshi's getting fucked over. And doesn't get paid that well for the manga itself. My pessimism believes that's what has happened. But it's vertical reach. Whereas other magazines, which people complain about people being woke or something, when that's not a valid excuse, you're just attributing a word that you've classically conditioned to be negative, and you've applied to something that's challenging your vertical idea, your status quo. Other magazines, which are now rising in popularity, are having a wider reach. And Jump is not ready to do this quite yet with the main magazine, but that's why they have the digital magazine Jump Plus, where they are now challenging these ideas with lots of fascinating new stories and trying new things. And there are great examples of these. The most notable, I think, the star of Jump Plus, the consistent star of Jump Plus would be Spy X Family. People joke about that formula trope. I joked about it in the last stream where it's like, people are like, oh my god, you wanted a romance confirmed? You know how most Jump, Ippo, I use an example, like to cock block you and tease you and never actually confirm things? That's the trope at the end of the day. Shonen Jump, Spy X Family, subverts that trope by, they get married like first chapter, first or second chapter, they get married. They're clearly in love, and that's not a surprise. It's just like now the question is, how in love can these two helpless, oblivious people get? Yor and Lloyd. That's the new play, as well as the family values. And we talk about criticisms. There's a whole thing. Spy X Family does not shy away about its criticisms of war and war economy, war education, about how society's gonna wrap around that, how Japan, its conservative side is very eager to get back into that and circumvent their constitution that says they can't do that. And they want to amend that and get involved, even though they do not have the population to support that. It's in a decline. Which is very funny because this is a series that on a vertical level likes to support the idea of starting families and breeding. But it's a gotcha on that. It's a where the subversion of the trope is, yeah, this is a story about starting a family, but he goes, starting a family is very fucking difficult. It's not that easy. You can't just be the ideal working family and be exactly what Shinzo Abe wants. There's a lot of things going on in society, war specifically, that does not support family values. And that's you can't do stuff like that on the main magazine. That stuff thrives on Jump Plus. And we're gonna see, and I do believe, slowly, we're gonna see that cross-pollination. And Psych House was one of those very first. I do believe. Because you see the way the Japanese audience reacted. The Japanese audience right now is making fun of Americans the way they're reacting to the end of My Hero Academia, in the same breath that they're freaking out about what I just described to you in Psych House. It's tomato here. Everybody's got their own issues and their own hang-ups Humanity is a very funny thing, you guys. It's a very wonderful, messy thing. I love it. I love these differences and these similarities at the end of the day. That's what Kaiju number 8 Abridged is about. Where it's funny that the things that we collectively in America get all hung up about, that Deku didn't get the girl at the end, that we don't respect teachers enough to say that's not rewarding enough. And Japan would stare at us and go, you don't respect teachers? You have to get the girl at the end of the day? Do you not see the statue where Deku was acknowledged in the same breath as other students? He needs to be exalted higher than other people? Americans, you're so weird. And then me as Americans go, you're mad that a starving child stole an expired rice ball? That's weird too. We're so weird. Humanity, we're such weird folks, aren't we? It's funny. And that's why, again, I go to this stuff, this image of Deku, and I go, we're just laughing. We're all having a laugh here. I know, and so when I have these criticisms of people who are having issues at the end, I'm not talking about the jokers. I know the jokers are just joking. I'm not offended by this. That's why I plaster it up there. It's fucking funny. But it breaks my heart that people don't want to engage with the nuance, they don't want to engage with the subtext, and make not other people miserable, but make themselves miserable, when I believe that this definitely has something to do with the stand-in fallacy, it has to do with power fantasy, and I go, you see a lot of yourself in Deku, and you see that wonderful ending where Deku is supported by his friends, and that's not enough for you? I don't think you're greedy, I just feel bad that you needed more. Life's that tough. Brother, I hope you find peace. I hope that just like Deku, there's a brighter day ahead for you. If that ending, and you need all this affirmation from Deku, and that wasn't enough, and that really pissed you off, I hope there's better things ahead for you. I'm not being facetious. Things must be really tough for you to have your heart hardened like that. You must have had a really rough go or are currently going through something real rough. Brother, I'm praying for you. Okay? But Panzer, have sex. See you, Space Cowboy. We made that joke in the community redraw about Shinzo Abe. David D, I'm actually paying attention to your comments now because I'm running out of steam. The caffeine is wearing off finally. I had to burn it off. Horikoshi, I'm gonna close this poll by the way, so I can actually see your comments. David D, he doesn't like the fact that All For One gave Shigaraki's quirk. I agree. I fully agree with you. More ways that Shigaraki's autonomy was stripped from him. He couldn't just be born this way. Literally the devil said, I'm gonna fuck you over. It's not your fault. It's mine. You're not a person. You're a puppet. And Shigaraki does not get enough to happen to him to justify his own humanity. It's really fucking sad. And so, David, if you don't like that ending, especially for Shigaraki, all power to you, baby. That's a valid criticism. That's not you going, oh, things didn't work the way I wanted. That is, no matter what, there's no way that the way that that Horikoshi had to navigate his editors to portray Shigaraki that way, that could never be fixed. There's no amount of subtext, no amount of bringing Tenko back from the dead that could have made that better, only would have made it worse. Unfucking fixable. Unforgivable. I'm the apparently I'm the glazer, and I think that's fucking horrible. I think that fucking sucks. I think that is a pot on the overall quality of the series. That is why I will never give it S+ ranking. Is stuff like that, among other things, but that's one of the things that is the most relevant because it very recently happened, and it's applicable to the ending. Stephanie Martinez says, this one about what I expected. That's what I brought up in last week's stream. I said a lot of us are, like, I felt the most level-headed criticism during the leaks before people could even read it was underwhelming. Because on a bullet point level, it is very underwhelming. But as I said, that's not a bug. That's a feature of Shonen Jump. All that energy and excitement's always in the final battle. So when you get to the end, when they have to move on with their lives, again, this caters to 1980 salarymen, you gotta go back to the real world, and that definitely happens for a bit. But I like that sort of, and this is why I'm so mad that people just don't see that, where it's like, literally, All Might comes in, rips up the end, and goes, yeah, we're not doing that 1980 Salaryman ending. Nah, Deku's going back, baby. And it's thanks to the power of friendship. It's to the power of Deku's relationships that he worked hard to cultivate. Deku, by his own force of will, took that gift that he got from All Might and he used it to give gifts to everyone else and cultivate those friendships to then get that reward at the end that he didn't need to have, that he himself did not expect to get. And that's great, but that can also be very mundane. And that's okay. It's okay to go, damn, I feel the pain of nostalgia. I feel the melancholy of, I wish I'd gotten more, but as an adult, I accept that life is more realistically like this. But he got his happy ending, and that's pretty cool, and that's good enough. So if you're like, I'm underwhelmed by the ending, that's valid. That's so valid. I brought that up last week. Yeah, Dylan B, you're preaching to the preacher, back to the preacher. I agree. That Shigaraki, All for One takes anything that was of Shigaraki's own volition. It takes away a societal issue. It literally anything involving AFO and Shiggy shows, oh, that's not society's fault. The devil planned this. The devil said, I rearrange everything to be like this. But that's why I'm so happy for Toga and Spinner and Dobby and Compress and Getten and everyone that they were totally outside AFO's purview. He could not control what they did at the end, and not even in the beginning. And they were obviously clear societal failures. The League of Villains is fucking awesome, but Shigaraki is not. I do have some criticism about Spinner though. That I don't like the fact that Shigaraki makes Shiggy bring up this whole thing. I'm gonna save Shiggy, and the fact that literally a guy who creates portals brought literally everyone and your grandma to the final fight and couldn't bring Spinner either, just to at least attempt to try to save Shiggy. That's also bullshit. That's such bullshit. And again, in a very childish, idealistic story like My Hero Academia, where even that portal scene was such an asspull, what's one more hair on that asshole? Why can't Spinner just be there and then he faints and gets arrested again? Like, he didn't even have to try. He just had to be there in that scene where you see everyone come to the poster. They don't have to show anymore. And the fact that we don't get that, we just get, oh, I'm going to become a book author now and tell the story that, to make sure that no one forgets about the League of Villains. I like that, but that's not enough. When this guy was not talking about his aspirations to be a book writer, he was talking about specifically, I need to rescue my League of Legends buddy. My online friends are real. I gotta save them. And we didn't get that. That's fucking sad. That's a... Oh, and also like Midoriya's dad. Horikoshi actively admitted that he forgot about Deku's dad. He said he was gonna do it, and he forgot. To be fair, the man was doing panels on a hospital bed, okay? I can forgive that. I can forgive that. I think Gege did a worse version of this in JJK with Nobara, where it's like the female character that many of my fans hail as the best shonen protagonista in the history of the magazine, which there are definitely valid arguments for. I forgot about her. I said there wasn't a 0% chance that she was alive, and then I just went, oh yeah, she's dead. And I did it because it had an impact, and I didn't have any more. She had more value being dead than alive at this point, which is okay. That's a personal taste thing. I think I can't say Horikoshi forgetting about a guy who was never ever acknowledged in there. Again, only through subtext, the fact that Deku could not tie a tie, that was the visual representation. That's subtext, guys. Is that a cop-out? The fact that we communicated that Deku was fatherless without ever showing a dad present, even though even that within itself would have communicated that a dad was not present. Dad wasn't around. We never saw him. Why are we fucking shocked? It's a valid criticism. I don't like it. But I'm not going to fucking spit on the grave of Horikoshi when he dies and be like, you never showed Deku's dad. What the fuck is wrong with you? He had the untied tie. That's the power of subtext, baby. Dad was never around. And we can glean many things about Deku's value of self-worth by his dad not being there. That never has to be directly addressed because My Hero Academia is not the story about Deku's dad not being there. It's a story about how we all became the greatest heroes. Collectivist heroism in an individualistic society, and a society where there is collectivism and there's collectivist problems. So this is a story about collectivist solutions. Not about Deku pulling tail at the end. Not about Deku's dad being there. There are things that I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted the dad being there, but that's not a full quality problem. But Mr. Host, our residential JJK expert, says Nobara's lack of presence feels a lot. And I agree. Don't worry, Host. JJK is still good, still valid. I don't like the way he treats characters, but I only bring this point because again, there's a lot of clashing with JJK and My Hero fans specifically, and they like to use these things against each other, and I like to go tit for tat and go, oh, Horikoshi did this. Yeah, well, Gege did that. And again, it's like Japan and America and our values of how we perceive things. JJK fans and My Hero fans and Horikoshi and Gege, it's tit for tat. We do these weird things. Some are worse than others. Some are better than others. It's a back and forth about how we treat our characters. But it does not remark on the full quality of the series. Because JJK is still great. I'm very, especially that chapter where Itadori is doing one thing that I fucking love. It's a very me thing, and I know it bores the fuck out of other people. But literally, we dedicated an entire chapter to go into Itadori's mind palace and go talk to your villain. Go, hey, sit down, shut the fuck up. I want to talk to you about humanity. I want to talk to you about compassion. I want to talk about the simplicity, about the value of life. That you could just be some guy. Again, respecting the value. My Hero Academia fans who do not like the ending of My Hero Academia could learn a lesson from JJK. Deku is a teacher at the most prestigious school in the country about a subject that he loves. The man gets to be a professor in heroism. He loves that shit. And you say that sucks? That's bullshit? It's not enough? Itadori says the very virtue of being born, of having a simple life, you do not have to even have aspirations to have value. We talk about the power of power fantasy, about how people need a win to feel valuable because life's so tough. Could learn a lesson from JJK about, hey, you're born, and I know society will tell you that's not enough. But generally, it's enough. Like, you should find value in the fact that you're still breathing, that there's still wind in the air and grass on the ground, and things to do and to laugh about. JJK's fucking... Mr. Host, best chapter. You're correct. It's my favorite chapter of JJK. I've read JJK. My favorite chapter before this chapter was things that I love, characters sitting around and just letting us explore them as characters. When they're sitting around with a girl that asked Nobara, hey, do you know what Itadori's into? I have a crush on Itadori. And and Nobara calls Megumi, and she's like, yo, get the fuck over here. This shit's fucking funny. And they're simultaneously fucking around and also being genuine. They genuinely have empathy for this girl. They're happy for Itadori, but because he's their buddy, whether Megumi and everyone wants to acknowledge or not, they're like, oh man, let's wingman for our bro. What does he like? And they're just sitting there, and they're just talking about they're talking about their friend, about what he likes. Because A, they're their friend, they like to clown on him, they also like to support him, and they like to support the people that love him. There's so much going on in that. Just the fucking monotony of that. A lot of JJK that I love, my favorite aspects of JJK is the monotony of their lives. And that chapter where because one of the biggest things about JJK is about the value of life, and it likes to talk a lot about how Itadori perceives that as death defines the value of life. Die the best way possible, and that's the value of your life. But he has learned that no, living is enough, and those little boring parts of your life are such victories. So fucking awesome, My Hero Academia fans. Diversify your palette. The ones, and I know for a fact a lot of My Hero fans do read JJK because again, vertical building, it's all the same shit. You read it, but people specifically who are unhappy that Deku did not get rewarded enough. Oh man, JJK would change your life. Itadori is such a fucking badass, and he talks about how the monotony of life is a fucking victory. So good, so fucking good, and I clown again. The Glazer, apparently famous Glazer Ivan Leroy, who is so malicious in how he criticizes so many series, like My Hero Academia and JJK, could sit here and praise it too in the same breath. Because that's me, baby. Because I fucking read. Because I see something wrong and I go, okay, now you need to prove me wrong. And JJK does it, and My Hero Academia did it. I spend the bulk of my career as an internet funny man on a mic here, talking so much shit about My Hero Academia, and people saying, you fucking hate My Hero Academia, stop fucking talking about it. And look what happened when it was over. I'm just sitting here defending it. You guys are sitting here listening to me defend it. And where did all those guys who were yelling at me go? They fucking abandoned. They abandoned their stand-in. They abandoned their god, Deku, because he didn't give them what they wanted. Because the whole point of the story wasn't to give them what they wanted. I feel bad, because like I said, I understand why they need him to give them what they wanted. But take a chapter from Itadori, baby. You don't need to be given what you don't need Deku to affirm or get rewards. Baby, we woke up today. We got up. We took a shit. I took a massive fucking dump before this stream. It felt fucking good. Life's fucking good. Kevin Gollin, valid criticism. Wish we kind of got more about heteromorphs. Agreed. Showed up way too late. The climax of this, I know the climaxes they're supposed to. The climax wasn't too late. The climax where it should have been. But there wasn't enough build-up, I agree. Val and I talk about this on the podcast, where literally the only thing we really get ahead of this is Pony, where she goes, oh man, octopuses make me feel uncomfortable. She herself, a heteromorph, says this, and I'm like, ooh, that's a microaggression. I like this. That's actually really mature, where it's like, we don't get the, you're a mutant, fuck you, you disgusting fucking thing, and throws trash at you and walk away. Though we do get that late in the game. Horikoshi waits late for that, and I like that. But we get this microaggression, but it's the microaggression is so microscopic. We needed a little bit more of that to really perceive the society where we see xenophobia in a very quiet way. That's quiet suppression, even though it's not so quiet, as Pony just said. Octopuses make you feel uncomfortable. Imagine you, like Shoji, being an octopus person going, yeah, that thing you look like the way you were born makes me feel uneasy, ew. And that's from a fellow mutant? That's internalized fucking xenophobia. That's gross, that's yucky. And that's the only moment I can cite confidently as the setup to this finale and all those things with heteromorphs. And I agree with, who said it? Kevin? I agree, wasn't enough. We needed more of that, but again, I talk about that war with his editors. That's a very uncomfortable thought. Again, Japan, we have our issues. In America, we very much do. Japan has another flavor of this, and they got this problem too. And Japan, in America, we like to be very loud. We have this argument, and we have a clashing, and we're very loud about this being a problem. In Japan, again, there's a lot of quiet about that. But even the quiet is very loud, and that's why, again, I like that microaggression moment, because that's such a quiet moment that speaks very loudly. Very cool of Horikoshi. Again, the man is skilled. The man is skilled. Let's talk about Horikoshi some more. And again, in the stand-in, because as a writer, because we talk about stand-ins, I am accused greatly of making certain characters in our bridge parodies as stand-ins of myself. Guys, if you're a writer, every character is a stand-in. Every character is a shade of you, and My Hero Academia is absolutely shades of Horikoshi about his weirdness. Dude looks like Shigaraki, by the way. If you've ever seen him, just black hair instead of white. About that, about the feeling of being an outsider, feeling of life's a little extra tough on you. Horikoshi, I talk about that the wives' tale of the three-strike system, where this guy, you're not as good an artist as Horikoshi, even at the level that he is now, without being pretty talented to start. This man had been a prodigy. This man had been blazing the trail in high school. Gets really talented and goes, okay, I'm going to become a professional manga because I'm so good at this. He goes there, writes 2 series for Jump. They get canceled immediately. And My Hero Academia is his 3rd strike. Wow, that's scary. Wow, that's humbling. And who does that sound like? Sounds like a lot of characters. Like Deku, things don't work out quite the way they do. And the fact that you find satisfaction in the future ahead. The fact that Horikoshi got to achieve his dream as a mangaka on Shonen Jump. To have that dream ripped away from him twice And he got the fuck back in and made his greatest fucking story ever. His life was not over at 17. Neither was Deku's. That's Horikoshi. And that's a great fucking ending. Wow, I'm hot shit. I'm a prodigy. And everyone can eat my shit, and then I get fucking humbled? That sounds like Bakugo. Remember when Bakugo was dunking on fucking kids at high school and beating up children? And then he goes to UA, and he keeps fucking failing exams and getting dunked on by the teachers. And then he's the one responsible for All Might's end, and makes a fucking mistake. Many mistakes. Bakugo's life's not over at 17. Dude fucking redeems himself. In a series where you got guys like Endeavor who openly admit they're never going to be able to redeem themselves, here's a guy who got to redeem himself. And he didn't do it to absolve himself. He did not do it because, like, oh man, if I apologize to Deku, I'll get a reward for it. Bakugo could have continued his own fucking life and never acknowledged Deku ever again. The supposed nobody. But he did the right thing. And in All Might's own words, he spearheaded the movement to get that kid a new fucking suit. To what end? He's getting less money in that. So his BFF, that's truly his fucking friend. This guy that I failed so many times, I gotta fucking rescue him now. And he fucking succeeds. Imagine if he just stopped. What if he just gave up and said, oh, well, my best life happened at the age of 17. Being a fucking working adult now fucking blows. There's no fucking point. It's not Horikoshi's fucking life story. He ain't gonna fucking... So you criticize that fucking... It's not what it's a fucking about. It's clearly not what it's about. The man's writing about himself, his own life. His life wasn't fucking over at 17 when he was fucking jumping in early at Shonen Jump. Kevin says, did we drop the doomsday theory? No, the quirky singularity. There's a lot of perceptions. I will also be addressing this in the abridged series because we have our own interpretation of this. But this, it's called the Quirk singularity, and something the Doctor specifically, Shigaraki, formerly known as Murata, controversially, he's the only character who's obsessed with this. But Todoroki, Shoto specifically gets brought up about this, but for one, basically the theory is that someday quirks will evolve to the point that everybody will have all of the quirks, or at least one person will finally have all of the quirks. It's literally entropy. It's that thermodynamic idea that everything will evolve and get more. Everything will get more complicated. It is the thermodynamic, physical, scientific property that the end goal of everything, of existence, is overcomplication and entropy. That things will become so complicated and so widespread into nothingness. I love this shit, by the way. This is the shit in college where I'd be fucking high and calling up my fucking engineering buddies and fucking building time machines in our fucking garage based on gravitational paradoxes. I play with these ideas in the abridged series. I'm fucking insane. But this is an idea that's in My Hero Academia. The fact that there's this natural state with quirks that someday someone, at least one person, will achieve all of the quirks. The Doctor says this. Todoroki is an example of this, where we have selective mechanical breeding for multiple quirks. He's a criticism of this. Then you get a guy like All for One, who he gets this idea from the Doctor, and he goes, ooh, I like that idea. That makes me feel strong and important. I will actively, physically, mechanically design myself and control other people's lives to achieve this theory. And design the body for myself that will have all of the quirks or evolve into all this chaotic and tropic nonsense. For the sheer goal, if you watch the latest episode of the anime, the sheer goal of fucking destroying the future, of achieving entropy, so that I am the center of a culture that also diversifies into chaos. I want to simplify culture to be obsessed with me, the man who destroyed everything. Clearly, you can't blame anything but me. I am the fucking devil. And again, these are themes that come at the cost of other themes and other developments like Shigaraki. where All For One is actively trying to be the devil. He says, I want to be Satan. I'm trying so hard to be. But a lot of people disprove him and say, no, you're not. You're a fucking troll. Fuck you. But Shigaraki, unfortunately, gets to prove him right a little bit. And that fucking sucks. But getting back onto that fact, he wants to achieve the quirky singularity. Shigaraki, when his fucking fingers and hands fucking evolves this giant finger hand creature, he's got the fucking face mask and he's this hulking fucking creature. It is called out that this is some form of that singularity where we're seeing that Shigaraki's dipping into so many quirks and he just happens to get the right collection of it. With All For One approaching, we're seeing so many quirks coming together and he's become this fucking mess. And this is a version of that doomsday, that singularity. That it's not even a quirk anymore because Aizawa tries to stop it and he can't stop it because it has become so complicated. It defies quirk theory. It's very cool. It's very cool. Dinosaur P, can we make more My Hero Academia Bridge? We have. It's currently on Patreon. Links below. I wanted this out very soon, but unfortunately, due to some copyright BS, it's going to be a while. And I'm very stressed about it. I don't want to be reminded of it, but I want to make sure you guys know that Dark Deku Abridged is on Patreon. Pony up if you can. If you don't got the scratch, I am so sorry. I want this on YouTube as soon as possible. But the way that the copyright system is abused, it's just not possible. I'm doing my best. Mr. President, it's an honor, sir. It's an honor, my valued constituent. It's an honor to talk to you directly. Do you think the anime will elaborate on events, Luke says? To fill in that space? It depends on how much space they have to work on. It depends on how much contract space that Bones has after the season. Because this season will not conclude the series. The pacing is very good. Guys, the anime is fucking great right now. As someone who's always very critical of the anime as well, the anime is firing on all cylinders, all things considered. The pacing is incredible. They're covering a lot, but it will not cover the end of the manga. So that means is that season 8 is all but confirmed. There are theories, people are theorizing that the final season's worth of content will just be a movie because they have a space for that. But Horikoshi has confirmed in an interview that whatever he has control of, he doesn't want that. But he hasn't confirmed or denied that that's going to happen. But a lot of people think that's a possibility, given how other anime are doing that currently. Famously, Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan. But Horikoshi likes these movie original stories, like the one that's out right now, You're Next, that just premiered in Japan last week. But personally, I believe that we're going to get a 13-episode core. So seasons in anime are usually divided into 2 cores. Core 1, Core 2. They're 13 episodes each. There's always a little break in between them. This is famously the last season of My Hero Academia that came out in the spring, and they took a little break before. They took a couple of weeks off before they did the other 13 episodes, and a lot of the staff and production teams will change between those cores, and that's why I say that My Hero Academia has a better first core and a bad second core, whereas right now, because of the way they changed the order this time, they did a recap episodes that count as part of that core, and that gave them more cap space to retain certain production members. That's why that despite the core change, a lot of the staff is being retained. Anime production is a very fascinating, complicated thing. It's really cool. But what I mean to say is that I believe, personally, based on what I've experienced, it's my job to follow these guys. I believe that there will be a season 8, and it'll be 13 episodes. What they do in those 13 episodes depends on the pacing. I believe that, yes, I think we're going to get just a little bit of a bonus, just a little bit more morsels. Not by much. I don't think they dedicate a whole episode to it, but maybe they do. Depends on how many of those 13 episodes they have left. I do not see it being feasible that they get 2 cores, 24 to 26 episodes. I don't think that is remotely realistic. So I see this 13 episode core. Could they fit some morsels in there? Optimistically, yeah. And maybe they give people some more things that they want. Optimistic. I'm being optimistic. Glass half full. But to me, I think they're going to have just enough to finish this out right. And that's A-okay. Because this season right now is a banger. If they approach the final core, season 8, like they're doing it right now, good hands. Blue sky boxes notwithstanding, great. Kevin, please standardize cores across the country. Never again map. I know. We need cores. Cores are so important. That's why when people complain about Bones, I go, that blue sky is there for a reason. That's there to conserve time, energy, and budget. It's a little inconvenient, it's a little bit annoying, but that blue sky in the first core is there so that core 2 can have the dark sky and the rain and be really cool. Okay? Trust Bones. It's their 25th anniversary? They've been here for 25 years for a reason. I realistically don't see MapUp surviving that long in its current state. I think a bubble's going to burst. I think they fall apart or they lose too much talent. But Bones will live for a very long time because they're very disciplined like this. As much as people complain about that blue sky box, Bones lives to see another day in an industry that has a bubble that's bursting. Do you think My Hero Academia could actually go on? This is already proven. Team Up Mission, a spinoff, is still ongoing. My Hero Vigilantes was a spinoff that for the bulk of its run and the bulk of My Hero's run threatened to be the better version of My Hero Academia. Not only can My Hero Academia go on, but Horikoshi doesn't even have to be involved to do so. Shueisha owns the rights to My Hero Academia. Horikoshi's just more kind of like the George Lucas. He's the guiding light. Shueisha goes to Horikoshi goes, hey, we're going to make a spin-off called My Hero Academia Vigilantes. With or without your approval. But you should give us your approval and you should go talk to Furuhashi and Betancourt. And kind of make sure that this isn't a disaster. Could you do that? With the whip in their hands and the leash. Little frisky there at Shonen Jump. But yes, My Hero Academia can absolutely continue on. I saw someone continue to say, oh man, I didn't get what I wanted. My Hero Academia will be forgotten within a couple of years. No shot. Dr. Stone got rushed out the door, and they're still doing epilogues. They're still doing mini-series epilogues of Dr. Stone. A series that should have been forgotten. As much as I love it, should have been forgettable, it's not. Because it was so unique and so awesome, and Jump themselves knows it, so they keep inviting the fucker back, even though the sales weren't even that good. They're like, hey, it's good enough for the magazine, this magazine that we're struggling because we keep building vertically, let's keep bringing back things that worked, even if they didn't work as good as we wanted to. My Hero Academia, if Naruto came back, if we're still talking about Naruto this very day, we'll still be talking about My Hero Academia to this day. There will be spin-offs with or without Horikoshi. Okay? Absolutely. As long as there's money to be made, there will be more of My Hero Academia. It's just going to take some time. I don't think Horikoshi's next work is going to be My Hero Academia related. You see on the final page, they say, look forward to Horikoshi's next work. I have no doubts this man has pitched another series already. This man loves what he does. I just wish that he would rest and get his health back up. But will his next work be as good? Only time will tell. We won't know until it happens. But Kevin goes, yeah, Kevin, you're like what is the, how could we have another story in the world of My Academia? Kevin brought up a good point that we brought up a very long time ago in Joycast. We talked about the power vacuum. That All for One has many generals. Again, he has lots of Shigaraki. Shigaraki is but one of many pawns. Did we grab all those pawns? Did we grab all his generals, all his mafia guys, all his world leaders, his industry plants, his psyops? Did we? Hori didn't confirm that. There's a power vacuum. Imagine all of all of All for One's disciples now vying in a power struggle. Like, hey, I'll be the inheritor of All for One's will. I will bring villainy back in this soft society that they've now created in his absence. Lots of story potential there. Val and I have a great theory. The one that I've addressed in My Hero Academia Bridge. I dedicated a whole arc to it in the Abridged series. What if the next threat is a hero? How complicated does that get when the bad guy is within now? It's not so easy anymore where it's a villain. that we can go out and chase. It's our guy. And now we have to, in this very tumultuous period, this very sensitive period in our time of the Hero Society, and now there's a hero undermining us. There's a hero challenging the status quo. There's a hero who might be a little bit right, but might not be going about it correctly, is causing more problems than solving. And now we have to calmly take this guy out or correct him without getting people uncomfortable again with all those same criticisms we received during the War arc and the Dark Deku arc. Lots of story potential there. It can very much happen. Again, not every problem was solved. Not every criticism was addressed. That openness is like, we can come back to that, baby. My Hero Academia X The Boys. It is. Val loves the comic The Boys. He does not like the series. I enjoyed the first season. Now I think it's very, like, it's become what it was criticizing. It's like, it's so try-hardy now. So when I see The Boys, I kind of just go, yuck. I kind of go. But if you like it, you like it. It's okay. It's fun. How long were the arcs between Bleach? Bitch, I don't know. I'm not the Bleach guy. That's Val. Val's the Bleach expert. I'm not the Bleach expert. I can't answer any Bleach questions. Miles, what do you mean Mappa will fall apart as a company? If you pay attention to anything regarding anything that Mappa works on as a company, it's not good. It's very tumultuous. JJK very infamously was having literally animator riots during production where they did a very good job trying to finish what they could with little minute issues. It's literally a miracle. It's a miracle that JJK, not only did it actually happen, but it happened and it didn't look that bad. And in many ways, it was very heavily talked about and very enjoyed on a quality level. That came at a price of a lot of the well-being of animators at the cost. There's a lot of people who don't animate for Mappa. Mappa lost a lot of animators to JJK Season 2. Burnt them the fuck out. Famously, there's a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the Attack on Titan movie, also done by Mappa. And the director of it has got, like, bags under his eyes, not even exaggerating, down to here. He looks like he's gonna fucking die. Like, I'm not even joking. It's not funny. It's not funny that this man looks fucked up. That will not hold. That will not maintain. Humans are humans. They're not machines. Mappa's on the premise of falling the fuck apart. They can't rehire animators as quickly as they burn them out because they take up so many. They acquire so many projects. Famously, Studio Wit, the previous owners of Attack on Titan, famously, infamous at the time, gave up Attack on Titan. They sold it to the rights to Mappa because they just couldn't do it. Studio Wit saw what was going on with Attack on Titan and went, we realistically as a company will not survive if we continue to do shit like Attack. If we continue to keep picking up these projects at this high of a level, at this seasonal level, we cannot do this. And Mappa is doing the exact opposite thing where they're going, give us everything. Give us JJK, give us Attack on Titan, give us a bunch of movies, give us everything. And their president in an interview admitted to this and said, yeah, this is how we're making a name for ourselves. This is how we're making our money. This is how we are making up for lost time. Because we are, who are in the history of the industry, we are a very new company. This is why we're standing on top of shoulders now and why we're one of those premier anime companies right now. Because we're doing everything. But you can't realistically do everything when you don't have everybody working on it. And especially when you're not maintaining everybody. That's a bubble. That will burst. We already get proof. We already see the bleeding and the scars of this from JJK. It's not a secret. Generally, animators and producers are sworn to secrecy. They're paid to be quiet. Things were so bad during JJK. There were animators who were breaking their NDAs and walking out the door and bitching about the production and going, this fucking production made me suicidal. This production made me hate art. And that's so sad because JJK Season 2 fucking rocks. It's beautiful. But the fact that it came at the cost of ruining people's lives and their love for the medium, I don't think it's fucking worth it. I don't think whatever Mappa's solution to doing what they're doing is not fucking worth it. I think that kills them in the long run. I don't think they're meant to survive. There's a reason why we don't have Gainax anymore, and Gainax evolved into things like Studio Trigger, you know? That is the natural state of animation. Even if things don't go that wrong, animators grow up, they develop their experience, and they leave. They get very talented, and they leave, and they take guys with them and go, hey, don't like the things going on in this animation studio? We're gonna build our own. That's why you get Bones. Bones was the pieces of another older studio. Studio Trigger was the bones of it. Mappa was the product of another studio that they departed from. But you know who stands the test of time? Bones is old now. And they stand the test of time. They have their own problems. But they handle things with discipline, with experience. They know cost and effect. They don't try to do everything all at once at the cost of fucking over their animators. They know to develop it. There's a reason why Kyoei Annie is so beloved in the medium. It's been around for forever. They take their time. They don't do a lot. They invest in their animators. They educate them. And they retain them. They're like the Nintendo of anime. And how do we feel about Nintendo versus Sony or Xbox? Xbox being a great example. There's no games on the PlayStation. Xbox sucks. Why are they releasing things on Game Pass? There's no point in having a game console. Whereas Nintendo, nothing but high quality exclusives. Because they take their time, they invest in their company, they invest in their workforce, they retain their workforce. Mappa, we burn you out. You're not good to us anymore. Bye. We need JJK down this week. We're not taking any extensions. We're not taking breaks. Make anime. Oh, we can't give you a bonus for that. We're not going to pay you to do that. You got to do some free work. You got to work overtime. That kills people. That kills spirits. That kills animators. JJK 2 looks great. But I generally can't, I don't think we're getting season 3 realistically for a very long time, if at all. I think they can do it. Mappa's very good. But they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're simultaneously trying to do JJK Season 3 with Chainsaw Man Season 2 and a Chainsaw Man movie and a Rosa Versailles movie, among other things that I don't follow all of Mappa's stuff, but I know Mappa does a lot of things. And they just don't have enough material because they burn it out. Mr. Host, let's dissolve the company that made Hi-Fi Rush. That's good. Exactly. That's the stuff that Xbox does. And that's kind of how anime works. But we're seeing a monopolization. We're seeing less experienced guys. Again, guys like who started Bones, who started Trigger, who are like, hey, we've learned our things and now we're going to leave. We've been invested enough in and now we're going to start our own thing. And then if you either you adapt or don't. Madhouse has hemorrhaged a lot of very experienced people. But Madhouse has been along for a long ass time. And what is Madhouse doing right now? They're doing fucking Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Madhouse is fine. Because Madhouse has been around long enough. They don't burn their guys up. You can lose animators, but you can still keep bringing new ones in and do your best to retain. Versus, I look at Mappa and I go, that's not sustainable. I look at Gainax. Famously, if you're old head like me, Gainax is fucking awesome. They're legendary. They are the proto Studio Trigger. They're done now. They were a copyright office for a very long time. They stopped doing anime years ago. And they just been a copyright office. That copyright office is also shut down now. There is nothing operational about Gainax anymore. A legendary company. Very similar lifespan of Mappa. So that's why I look at history and I look how this is done. But even Mappa, undermines history and is doing this at even far more rapid, at even more destructive level. So that's why I go, Mappa's not long for this world. But then again, you get these experienced guys, and then people go, I don't like that blue sky box at My Hero Academia. Yeah, but look at what works. There's a reason why you don't hear, because every animation studio, even good studios like Bones, do have their issues. They do have their work. They do have work culture issues, and they might be breaking some labor laws, but they're not doing as badly as MAPPA is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's why I say they're just not sustainable. But who knows? Maybe they hemorrhage enough, and then MAPPA just can't do enough, and MAPPA says, okay, new culture. We're going to keep what we have, and then we're going to invest in what's left, and we're going to slow it down, and we're going to work on quality because they've developed their reputation now. They can still be trusted to produce quality. They just can't do a lot of it anymore. There's optimism here. They can learn their lessons. It's just, I'm not seeing it now. It's just the fact that despite what happened with JJK, they keep picking up projects. I don't like that. There's another fun example. Ufotable, the creators of Demon Slayer. What they achieve, they're kind of a schmix. They're kind of a bit of a column A and column B about the good and the bad. But because again, it's about those workarounds. Bones. You see reused assets, a blue skybox. That's their solution. That's their workaround to keep their animators from killing themselves, for being well fed and funded and have some time to work. MAPPA's solution is grind them out. You're done. We get a new. We throw you out. We get a new guy in. Ufotable's workaround. Hilariously, this is a thing that everyone makes fun of Ufotable about, myself included. Tax evasion. Ufotable will evade taxes, and they get in trouble for this all the time. Multiple instances where they get sued and they get put to court by the Japanese government because they won't pay their fucking taxes. They save a lot of money by not paying the government what they owe. And they go, oh, we have lots of... Ufotable goes, they got their money, they got their pockets and their shirts just stuffed full of cash, and they're like, we don't owe the government anything. We're going to give it to our animators and ourselves. And we're going to make all these beautiful, high-quality pre-rendered effects and these crazy, insane character designs and 3D backgrounds. And the government's like, where do you get the money to fund that? Where's that money coming from? And they're Ufotable stuffing their pockets going, I don't know, we're just a humble anime studio. What are you talking about? That's Ufotable. There's always these workarounds. They're very funny. And not so funny. In MAPPA's case, it's not fucking funny. I saw Twitter, I saw animators quit their fucking careers over this. Guys, and I look at the director of Attack on Titan, who looks like a corpse. No exaggeration. Looks like a corpse. And I'm like, that is an abuse of passion. MAPPA is abusing the passion of these people. To what gain? Just killing dreams. Sure, the anime looks cool, but I need more. The anime's not as cool to me if the people behind it are fucking miserable. It's the same argument about AI, where I'm like, that's not cool if there's not a person behind it, where that's just ripping ideas. They're just going through a Google image search and going, okay, I got this, that, and I'm gonna mash it together. Like, there's nothing humane about that. There's nothing fun or passionate about. The part of the fun is that this was a group of people who love art and love the visual, the movement of art and moving pictures, and this collection of weird people and conflicting ideas. It's a very complicated process, and it all comes together in motion and in concert and becomes this beautiful thing. It's so cool. I love that. But when I see it and I hear that made people miserable, that crushed dreams, that made people sick, it's why I wouldn't, during My Hero Academia's manga run, where I hear that Horikoshi's getting sick and he's in the hospital, and I'm like, take a break, my guy. I don't want you getting sick over this. I don't want a Kentaro Miura situation, the writer of Berserk, dying, making his series. I don't want to hear that Akira Toriyama had a fucking stress fracture in his fucking arteries, and that's why he died. He was done with Dragon Ball. What the fuck was he doing? Who was making him do that? The dude was set for life, and he died. He died doing what he loved. And I say that, I'm like, wow, I said that right on Twitter. Wow, to die doing what you love. At the same time, I go, why you gotta die doing what you love, bro? I don't like that. I don't like if it's a physical death. I don't like it if it's a spiritual death. So again, that's why I say, because again, people like to play team sports. People like to affirm, like, oh, Mappa does the show that I like. Mappa can't be bad, because that means the show that I like is bad. You should be critical of the things that you love. You should look at the studio that you love, who makes the show that you love, and go, hey, I don't like the way you're doing this. I want you to be better, because I love you. I love what you do, and I want you to continue loving what you do and do it the best way possible. Because it is achievable. With the proper investment, with the proper care, we have examples across multiple mediums where this can be done with care. In anime, we see KyoAni as a prime. In video games, we see Nintendo. And there's still problems. Nothing's perfect. There's always going to be issues. Nintendo, infamously, they still have computers from the 1990s. It's very hard to modernize Nintendo. And that's a struggle that their internal crew has. There is a good thing to be said about retaining your crew, but there's also a problem with a workforce that's too old to adapt. And those are the issues that Nintendo has from time to time. There's always going to be problems. But for me, to me, the worst problems is physical death and spiritual death. I don't like that. It's sickness. We don't need to be doing that in art. I don't like the starving artist. I don't like the suffering artist. I don't think that's artistic. I think that is a symptom of capitalism. The fact that someone is hogging this money where they should be investing it. And then you get examples like UFO Table where they are investing it, but they're not investing it the right way, the appropriate way, where they make so much money as a company, and it is their obligation and their honor and their privilege as citizens of a country where they do owe money that goes into investment programs for the populace because they make a certain bracket of money that they owe the people, because no one needs that much money. And UFO Table throws that around like it's a fucking joke, and it's like, you could still pay your animators very well if you invested in more smartly. You could still do that, but you want to do that and also have the guys at the top suit level have a little too much money. It's like, no, there needs to be a balance. You know, these are symptoms. These are symptoms. What do I think about Oda currently? Someone said on that subject. Dylan, thank you for that question. Oda, so that's another thing that Val and I have said. Mangaka, the most famous and popular ones, are built differently. They can do this shit for years. Psychologically, physically, like LeBron James at the Olympics, he's the most, designed for basketball. Michael Phelps, the most designed to win 1 million gold medals at the Olympics. So there is a type of genetic makeup and psychology and skill that can make a guy do this for fucking 20 years with minimal issue. And that's Eiichiro Oda. Crazy. That being said, the man is feeling his age. He's had to take breaks recently for eye surgery. And you can see his art has declined in quality. We're not going to... No One Piece fan who's reading that manga shies away from the fact that the quality of his art has declined. And it's not a stylistic change. It's you can tell his eyes are getting bad. That's just age. And again, should you be telling stories this long? It's amazing that he can, and he can do this so well. But yes, Oda also concerns me. But he doesn't concern me like Horikoshi does, or how Mira and Toriyama did, and how other mangaka did, like the writer of Ruri Dragon. Six chapters, has to take almost 2 years off, but they brought him back. That was wonderful. I'm so glad they did that. That usually never happens. That was passionate. That was a great passionate decision on everyone who was involved, of doing smart things. But go figure they did it because it sold so well. Even when he wasn't producing it, it was selling better than most volumes that were actively running on Jump. So still a capitalist decision. But yeah, there's guys like that who Ruri Dragon's very good, very high quality, but clearly these guys are not built for that grind. You could be an amazing storyteller and an artist, but there's something about the way that Jump is done, and I don't like the way Jump is done. I famously screech about this on Joycast about Fujiboto, Chainsaw Man, that weekly does not serve him well. It doesn't matter why. whether it's a physical, psychological, skill, time thing, weekly kills the clear passion, the passion, the care, and the quality of Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man 2 fucking sucks. I don't even care what he said during his one shot. Just listen to the song. I don't care. Chainsaw Man 2 fucking sucks. And it's because it's weekly. It's not his fault. It's partly his fault that he just doesn't fucking just wrap it up. But I don't think he can wrap it up. I think Shonen's got him in a fucking vice right now. I guess one-shots, being an award-winning one-shot author with a line of movies being adapted, apparently that's not enough, and he has to keep doing weekly. And knows, maybe he loves it. Maybe Fujimoto's a crazy motherfucker. Again, that's psychology. He's crazy. He might just not give a fuck. And that's based. But I'm not going to sit here and read Chainsaw Man 2 anymore. Because to me, it fucking sucks. Because it's being done weekly. He's being rushed. His assistants are being rushed. It's not fucking good. Another example of Fujimoto might be completely healthy and psychologically developed enough to do this. Not developed. That makes people who aren't stupid. No! He's the right amount of crazy to do this. And he doesn't care about the quality. And he's just having fun drawing people without ears and doing his weekly meme image. That might be enough for him. But personally, I feel like it's a threat. I think it's a threat to his credibility, but he, again, might not give a damn about his credibility. Different strokes, folks. But I look at guys like Horikoshi who clearly love the medium and want to keep doing this forever. And them, I see guys like that. I see artists at MAP, and I go, I want you to make decisions to keep doing what you love at such a high quality level for as long as possible. And I want the people who are in charge of you to do that as well, to develop that, to guide that process. And they're a great example. Again, I brought up Ruby Dragon. There's an example of a guy who did 6 weekly chapters, got fucking sick for 2 years, came back, and they went, we're gonna move you to Jump Plus, and we're gonna bring in a monthly. That was cool. They figured this guy out. I want to see stuff like that when things are clearly once in a generation, when things are clearly amazing. Let's not beat the fucking horse till it's whip the horse until it can't run anymore. It's a fucking garden. It's a fucking it's a living creature. It's a horse. Let's take good care of that horse, guys. Let it have a nice, long, beautiful, healthy life. Bun. Hokione, I love Hibiki Euphonium. You would not have sound euphonium without the practices of KyoAni. Everything they do. My personal favorite is Violet Evergarden. And it's the way that KyoAni does things. KyoAni had their fucking studio burnt the fuck down by a fucking terrorist. People literally fucking died. They lost work. They lost infrastructure. And they rebuilt, and they finished their shows, and they got shit done, and they're still at that top quality fucking level. Only fucking KyoAni, you guys. If, God forbid, I never wish that on anyone. If that happened to another studio, I don't think they could rebuild. Again, that infrastructure is so complicated. It's beautiful in its complexity. But it's tough. And that's why that when I criticize anime, I always come with the caveat of, like anyone who joined me for anime night knows that we love this anime called it was the vending machine one. It was the isekai vending machine. I fucking hate isekai. This vending machine anime was so fucking cheaply made. It was you barely could call it an animation. We fucking loved it. We applauded it. It was so much fun because it didn't matter how reduced the frames were. It was made with so much love. You could tell that whoever worked on this project just loved that manga. They loved drawing a vending machine. They loved doing isekai. Regardless if I liked isekai, I will champion that vending machine isekai anime. Hilariously, they're OP. The one thing you should invest the most things into It's a fucking slideshow with characters. Oh, there's that character. Slides by. We're doing tweening to not animate. Still frames. Da 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 da. Run-of-the-mill song. And then they get to the girl. And then there's just full-blown animation of her working out in the woods. Her titties are fucking bouncing. They're getting ass shots. And it's just like, that's fucking hilarious. And you can tell they enjoyed it so much. You can tell no one died for that. You can tell they didn't have the budget, but they're just like, this was someone's passion project. No one died over it. No one got burnt out over it. Everyone was happy. No one worked on that anime and went, my love for animation has been crushed. I didn't get to animate like JJK did. No, they're just like, fucking got to do the vending machine at Sakai, and it was fun. And I could tell it was fun. Didn't have to get those interviews. It looked fun. Didn't matter what the budget was. It was fun. Everyone looked really well taken care of. They didn't burn anyone to death on it. Forest punching montage. Host knows. Host knows she was punching that forest. Animation, no matter the level, is a beautiful, complicated thing. It doesn't matter that Vending Machine Isekai had a fraction of the frame rate that JJK did. It is a fucking miracle that anything gets animated and produced. Another famous example, the Zom 100. Zom 100, one of the best opening pilot episodes of anything in anime. Cool, awesome, wonderful. They got 3 episodes in, they couldn't fucking finish it. They had to take a fucking break. They were forced. Like, studios and producers do not want those breaks. It was impossible. They literally said, you will get sketch pages. There is nothing animated right now. We have to go on hiatus. We can signs of things that haven't finished. Golden Kamuy, they have multiple directors, assistant directors. One assistant director died. I don't know why. I didn't look into it. I hope it wasn't related. I hope it was he just fell asleep. We can only hope that he fell asleep and didn't wake up. But someone died during the production of Golden Kamuy season 3. One guy died. And they had to put the entire thing on hiatus. This is how precarious the industry is right now. One assistant director. Nothing. It all stops moving. It's that easy for anything to fucking... And to this day, we talk about Joycast for Vagos. Did they ever finish that season? They might have. I don't know. I don't know if they finished season 3. No one knows. Because the marketing... There's a reason why they rush the things out. Because the marketing is timed, and they have to be at those times. Those episodes have to come out the same time the marketing does. The marketing will not wait for you. It's its own fucking untamable beast. So, season 3 of Golden Kamuy may have eventually finished to come out. We'll never know. They didn't fucking market it. I'll have to look it up. I can't look it up right now because I got all my stream shit up. You know a lot about anime. It's my job. It's my job. I am what you call an industry wise guy. I have a lot of industry insiders who tell me about what's going on. I could tell you so many things about things that are going on at Crunchyroll, the dubbing studio, but I cannot say, because that's NDA'd, non-disclosure agreement. There are things that must remain private, and that's what I do out of respect to anyone who works there, regardless if I have criticisms or disagreements about things that happen there, how things are run. I will always respect those things and not tell you, but sometimes, like on Joycast, if you go back to those episodes, we talk specifically about a very specific, very popular anime that was by a studio I just talked about not too long ago, where Val and I got very uncomfortable about before it came out, because we knew things. Because we're wise guys. We know people, we hear things that the layman does not. So when we talk about this industry, we come from a very informed place. We're not experts. We just happen to be next to the ground floor. We're adjacent. We're right next to it, and we're watching. And I'm watching what's going on right now, and I don't like what I see. And the layman who's on Twitter, their only exposure is the finished product. They can't see what's happening. I can see what's happening, and I'm not even that far in. There are guys who are wiser guys than me who have better. I'm getting information from them. They're getting information from someone else. It's a game of telephone. But again, as not only as a guy who understands the industry, I'm also an animation nerd. I know principles. I know how animation works. And so when I'm watching things like JJK, I see little problems. My eyes are built a certain way, with a certain amount of experience. I can go and go, something's wrong right there. Ooh, did you see that little miscoloring? That little the line came off? You can't see it. It's not your job. You're just there to enjoy. You're with the audience. You're there to enjoy. But I'm a fucking wise guy. And I go, someone didn't eat that week. Someone's not sleeping. Someone didn't get paid. Right there. It's those little things. It comes with experience. It comes from just talking to people. And just learning how this fucking works. I'm in a very wonderful, privileged position, but again, not a nepo baby like you would say Deku was. I wasn't handed this. I work in a silly little thing called abridging that happens to also be adjacent to voice acting, which happens to be very popularly adjacent to anime production. And these things all cycle around each other, and I hear things, and then not only do I hear it, I keep asking about it. I keep asking questions, and I keep learning about it. And people then feel more comfortable telling me about what's going on. But on the caveat of, there are things I can talk about, but there are things I'm also sworn to secrecy on. For all the things I told you guys, I gave you a fraction of things I actually know what's going on. I know like nightmare scenarios that are happening with your favorite shows that I'm sworn to secrecy on every level of production. But again, that's showbiz, baby. It'll be a nightmare one day, it'll be a miracle the next. Nightmares into miracles, but the idealist, the optimist in me wants things to run more smoother and be more. I want more humanity in my art, in my production. I want more humane practicing, is what I want. That's all I'm asking for. And I see examples where that humanity is not only being demonstrated, but it is thriving and succeeding at such high levels. Again, that map interview with the president, he basically cited Kyoani as, we want to be that. That's our aspiration. But it's like, bro, you're doing the exact opposite of what Kyoani is. And anyone who knows, that guy got fucking yelled at for that. Anyone who know their shit, there were the outlets that reported, then there's the wise guys, the critics, the experts, the people who know even more than I do, who fucking called his ass too and went, well, you want to be Kyoani? That's not how you do it. You want to be UFO table? That's not something to aspire to. They're good, but they're very sketchy. Your priorities are mixed, my friend, president of MAPPA, and the way you're running things, that could fall apart. That has the signs of falling apart. We have history to inform this. We watch. The anime industry is not new. It's new to us in the West. Its popular nature is very new to us in the West, but it's been here for a very long time, and cycles repeat. We have history. We know how this works now. We know who does it right. We know who does it wrong. We know who stays. We know who doesn't. Warrock, going back to My Hero, he doesn't want to be in debt to his friends. He's not in debt to his friends. No one's in debt to each other. Again, I said it's doing the right thing because it's the right thing, not because you expect a reward. And not just a reward. Again, I talked about Bakugo. You're also not anticipating punishment either. Neither punishment nor reward, no cost, no effect. We're just doing good because it's good. Good for goodness sake is what My Hero Academia is about. Is that childish and maybe it's a little too ideal? Sure. But I think there are far worse things to aspire to. I like to aspire to, again, humanity in a medium that's very budget, time, money cost beholden. I know it's a very huge ask to be asked for humanity in production, but I'll still ask for it anyways, not because I'm I fear anything. Humanity just feels better than suffering in my book. It's very simplistic, I know, but when you get to my age, you're gonna, again, I would go back to the quirky singularity that we talked about towards the beginning, about how life, there's this whole entropic process of things complicating. When you get to my age, you'll be very nostalgic and you'll very much desire simplicity. You'll want morals to be simple again. You wish things could just go back to being black and white and we chose the good option. There's nothing wrong with aspiring to that. And doing goodness for goodness sake is not fear of debt. And it's clearly demonstrated in the ending here. The Bleach dub controversy with Yoruichi. We talked about this on Joycast. I'm not sure which episode specifically. Go down. It wasn't that long ago. But a bridge. Because we're at 2 hours. I gotta run. I've got a meeting in like 5 minutes. So very quick bullet points. In an ideal world, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're an actor, you can act and you can play that role. But the ideal world is a world where there is balance, where roles are given out fairly in the first place, on a racial, ethnic, gender, age, what have you level. As the industry currently stands, it is not fairly pressed out. It's not. In my history as a director who casts voice actors, I go by the best guy approach, but I also balance about what is authentic and what is appropriate. Okay? This situation that happened on the Bleach dub, it was again, we talk about production is very complicated. They made the choice. There was a balance. There was a balance of contracts because the original voice actress who wanted to play that role was asking for a bit more. She was asking for a bit more, and they went, okay, we can't afford that. And also, we're in a time where we're being more mindful of authenticity in casting. We're going to go with this other voice actress. And what did the original voice actress do? She kind of started up a storm. She whipped up a storm, and that was the true issue with that. She whipped up a storm when she should not have. She withdrew information that she should have made clear. That it was more than just, oh, we don't want you anymore, we don't need you anymore. You got recast purely for authenticity, but it was more complex than that. That being said, an actor losing their role a long time, that fucking sucks. This is a very complex situation, and everyone can be right and wrong at the same time. This is complexity. And where we do need authentic casting, at the same time, we need to be a little bit more fair to longtime actors. But again, there was this complexity where their contract wasn't lining up with what they had. And then that actress did the wrong thing, whereas, was it Anaris Quinones? Was she the one who got the new role? Where then they backed out. That was the other issue is, then after the shitstorm was brought up, then they think they backed out of it and they recast the original actress. And again, Anaris was being very amicable about it. She was just like, the breaks, whereas the other one was fucking starting some fucking fights. And that became the whole canceling job, because then everyone had a story about that voice actors being kind of fucking rude and mean to everyone. So it's like, why? So just saying, hey, why would we want to defend you when you act like this? You know, like it got way out of hand. Where I just go back to, there's a time, money, budget with budget. We like to bring back the original voice actors, but they might not be able to fit those new parameters because it's been like 20 fucking years in quality and in standards of change. And also, there's this authenticity, there's this the sensitivity that we need to balance when we're casting specific types of roles. And I feel like Viz's original decision was the correct one. And I think Anaris, when this got brought up, handled it very correctly. I don't think the original voice actress handled it very maturely. And that's what, in my eyes, became the problem. What do you think started all the McDonald's memes with Deku? It was just a joke. It was a simple joke that Deku could be hero nor. So comedy is extremes. As a guy who writes jokes for a living, comedy is extremes. Deku can't be a hero anymore. He goes works at McDonald's because turntable jobs that are very quick to get into, like McDonald's, even though I would give service industry workers all of my respect. I worked in medicine. It's just another shade of service. It's all just another shade of service. Dealing with people is a fucking difficult thing to do. But for some reason in the collective, we don't respect McDonald's workers, and we think this is the lowest job ever. I'm a football fan. Detroit Lions. Last night, we had a fourth string quarterback fucking flop and flake during a preseason game with no consequences. Guess what the fans said to him? They bullied him. They said, go back to McDonald's. Here's your McDonald's application. It's an extreme response. And comedy and bullying, whatever this is extreme. And Deku doesn't have a job anymore. He works at McDonald's. comedy is extreme. We get to make a point, to get a point across. We come to an extreme conclusion. We come to extreme development is what we do. And it can be fun. It can also be very hurtful. Like I said, some people see themselves in Deku and they get very offended by that. Like they're being told, go work at McDonald's, which I say, service injury is tough, man. It's a miracle you get to live any day, and the fact that you get to have it, because there's a lot of people who can't even get to work. There's lots of people in this country that can't even get a job at McDonald's for many fucking factors, and that fucking blows. So I say put some fucking respect on it. At the same time, I understand the extremity of the joke, and I go, I can laugh at this. And it's funny because Deku did lose his hero job for 8 years. Like he went from this job that had this like chokehold on society and went, this is the only thing you can do is be a hero. And then he got put to a different position. That's fucking hilarious. That is fucking hilarious. There's an irony to that. And the extremism is funny. That's the level in which I find this funny, and I understand it. Because I know it's not true. I know Deku became a fucking teacher, which is a job you should respect, but the way people are not happy about him being a teacher seems to be very disrespectful to teachers too. My god, what do you want besides Ochako? You know? Which, go back to the beginning of this VOD, go back to last week's stream, go to our Joycast analysis. I've discussed this. I have, like, very little left to say on this subject. I am fucking exhausted. Shori Skies, my guy, says, Ivan, I like your cap. How's your day going? As I said, I'm very anxious right now. The copyright situation is very bleak for Dark Deku, but I have to understand there are things that I can control and I can't control at the moment. And when I can, I will do my best. I will do my fucking Plus Ultra Deku best to get this fucking parody on YouTube, the best of my ability. And hope that I don't fucking kill the channel in the process. But otherwise, I'm doing great. I'm enjoying some alone time. I've got work to do. My wife, Stina, is at a convention right now, and I could not come because I was busy on my end. But I'm enjoying the solitude. I'm enjoying the quietness in a good positive way of being. Again, I'm in a very stressful situation right now, and I'm learning to deal with that by myself with my own private feelings, and that is an opportunity to do better and to do my best without my emotional support wife around all the time. And I'm doing my best, and I'll take those victories, and I'm gonna have a great Saturday night. I'm literally gonna leave to go take a meeting, and then I'm gonna go pick up dinner for my folks. I'm very lucky to have my family live 5 minutes across the bridge, and while my wife is away, even though I'm the cook of the family, I'm the one who makes dinner, so I'm not starving. But my family's like, we'll make you dinner. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I'll take a fucking free meal. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna get a free dinner, and then I'm gonna go hang out privately behind the scenes here and just rest. That's what I'm gonna do. Love how expressive your eyebrows are. Yeah, they are my best feature. They are my wife will tell me every day they're my best feature. They're my best quality. Have you ever seen the animated version of myself? It's always big eyebrows. It's why stand-up and improv treated me so well. When I'm physically in front of audience, I definitely get a better reaction over folks over my writing, it seems sometimes. But that's the conversation for another day. Guys, I gotta fucking run. We're way over time. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for talking, engaging with me, and just listening. Regardless of how you feel about the end, just know that there is so much going on with this ending. More than many manga I've seen in the past. You shouldn't be ashamed. You shouldn't feel robbed. If you are, if you're disappointed, you're allowed to feel disappointed, but please do not abandon this story over not getting what you wanted when it's giving you so much of what you need. It's a very generous story, even with its problems. Everyone, have a wonderful, safe, awesome weekend. I don't know if I'm streaming again anytime soon. I'm trying to make it a goal to stream more often. I think after Joycast, we have 2 episodes left of Joycast. Did I mention at the beginning of this episode, there's no Joycast next week, Monday? Because Val is sick. Wish him a good get well soon. That's the reason why I'm streaming today. This is the time I usually record for Joycast. There's no Joycast next week. This is the supplement to it. But we have 2 episodes left. When that is done, I think I would like to stream more in this capacity. I might play some games in front of you, but I like this thing where I just come up and just talk. I'm so good at talking. Not talking and doing, but just talking one-on-one with you guys. And so, like, fucking drop it in the comments. What would keep bringing you back to these streams of me just talking to you? Even if I did play a game, what game would you like me to see? Or something for me to talk about, or something to fuck around with? Let me know. I promised when I got into this house that I would stream more, and I never streamed less ever I have had in my life. I've been so busy, but Joycast is going to give me more cap space to do so. So I'm going to be trying to make that a genuine goal now. Hopefully it sticks. But I got to run, you guys. I'm on my way out. Peace out. Love y'all. Take care.